Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 3, The Voice of Luxury. My name is Lucy Challenger, and I am the CEO and founder of Polo and Tweed. And I am absolutely delighted to be joined today by Phil Parker-Larkin. He is actually a super yacht captain. Now, I know if you've followed this channel for a while, you will be aware perhaps of what a super yacht is, but if you don't know, or if you think, I'd quite be interested in life at sea and what does that entail, Phil is here to share all his amazing experience and career. So Phil, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Lucy. Pleasure to be here.
Obviously, some people listening may know what a super yacht is, and for others, they may have an idea. But I thought you could start with just telling us a little bit about yourself, your career, and how you got to the point that you are now, where you are on board these incredible vessels and sailing the seas.
So yeah, my career in super yachting is it was something I sort of fell into. Actually, it wasn't something I planned to do. When I left school, I used to work in nuclear power stations, did an apprenticeship and trained in engineering. And I used to windsurf, and of course, thinking I was like a pro windsurfer who was actually absolutely rubbish. I thought, oh, I'll go and perhaps become a windsurfing instructor. Went to a seminar with a to look with the view to becoming a windsurfing instructor, but they had a course in Australia to become work towards your yacht masters qualification. So sounded quite interesting, quite fun. So I went and did that. And then about a year later, I got my qualification as a yacht master. You have to get so many miles at sea and time at sea as skipper and everything. So basically, I did what we call the zero to hero course. Although I've been sailing since I was 11, I was 21 when I went and did that. That put me on the path into the yachting industry. And then I was working on sailing yachts. So I worked for a company in Greece, the moorings, and from yachts from like 28 feet to 50 feet. And then pretty much my whole career just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, super yachts are basically anything over 100 foot or about 33 meters. That's what they class as a super yacht. But now you know, a 33 meter is, to most people, a big yacht. In the super yacht industry, it's not, it's a small boat. The yacht side I'm currently running now is 52 meter, and even there is a brand new build. It's in the industry, it's not a big boat.
Is it a rational sort of assumption that as the boat gets bigger, there is more complexity in managing the vessel, or is it once you know how to manage one, you can manage them all? Is there a natural progression, or do things get more complex as the boat gets bigger?
Yeah, they do get more complex as it gets bigger. The essentially is the same. It's a boat. The navigation is the same. The engineering can vary vastly in size of the vessel, from something quite simple to the yacht I'm on now is so complex. It's crazy. It's like a 90-meter boat squeezed into a 50 with the amount of technology on there, and it's all the latest technology. So yeah, it does change a lot, but I mean, technology is changing a lot as well. So that's why things have changed. The biggest thing is the management of the yacht, not just the actual crew. So the man management, as in every industry, is the most challenging part. But we do have management companies as well that give us a lot of support for the technical management and the recruitment management and doing contracts and the day-to-day operations, like sort of behind the scenes stuff. But really the pointy end is still on the bridge, and the captain generally and the crew.
And how do you evolve yourself with new technology? Because I know when, with my own business or with life, and sometimes my 8-year-old is like, look mummy, what I can do on this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, when did this change? And my 8-year-old seems to be at more cutting edge technology movement than I am. But it sounds like obviously your job is there is a huge responsibility on your shoulders, and not just in safety and keeping people alive, but also the value of these boats that you're managing. How are you staying on top of this ever changing and ever evolving technology that you're having to learn and adapt with?
I would say the core principles on the yacht haven't changed so much. For example, we have electronic navigation, and they've been around for many years, and they evolve slowly because it's a regulated industry, the maritime industry, not just yachting. And so sure, that it's like getting an update on your phone. It's something, things change, but there hasn't been any like real mass changes of navigation software. And when they do come in, we have to do training courses to learn how to use it. But generally, like you, I just find the youngest crew member and say, "How does this work?" So they all seem to pick it up pretty quick.
And obviously you've had this progression in your career, you've gone through your life, you've worked on bigger boats and taken on more responsibility, but what is it that drives you? Why do you wake up each day and think, yes, I'd like to do this again? What is it that excites you about your work?
I think really, when you wake up somewhere, a beautiful view out the window, you're in a different country, you're experiencing different things, different people, different places. It's exciting. It is enjoyable. I mean, of course, having a family and living in the UK, I've got the best of both worlds. So I get to go home. So, the other thing that drives me is, it is at the end of the day a job. And, I do it for my family as well. So that's what gets me out of bed.
And how do you find the balance with, I mean, I assume that you spend large portions of your time at sea, so you're away from your family. So how do you find a balance, and how have you navigated that? Because often, in all types of lines of work, people sometimes struggle to find that balance between working and family life, but yours takes you away from your family. So how have you worked through finding a balance with that, or is it quite hard to do in your line of work?
It is quite hard to find the balance, and especially this year, the balance has been heavily weighted towards work. Because I'm on a new build. I'm in a country where it's not as easy to travel in and out of now because of Brexit. It is difficult to balance it. I mean, some vessels have a rotation system in place where you work 2 months on, 2 months off, or fixed period on and off. Unfortunately, in my 27 years, I haven't really had that luxury of having that. But the way we've always made it work is I've been on yachts that have been mid-based. So I've been based in Monaco, Italy, places like that. And I don't like to jump around between yachts. I build a rapport with the owner. And when the yachts, if they're not being used, I jump on a plane and go home and spend time with my family. So zip home for weekends, as many opportunities as I can. And then, of course, I just try and make sure that my vacation package is good enough to allow me more time at home. But the thing is with the industry, when you're working for the ultra wealthy, you have to fit in around their schedule. So
yeah, absolutely. And if someone was listening to this or watching this and thinking, I'd love to enter the industry, you touched on this briefly about your kind of transition into this world. What would be perhaps 3 tips that you could give to a young person or an older person who was looking for a shift in their career and to enter the world in which you work?
There's 3 main departments on a yacht. You've got the engineering department, deck department, and interior department. Interior is basically the hotel side of the vessel. So if you have shore-based experience in a hotel, it's very similar. Deck, it sounds very glamorous working on deck, but it's a lot of washing down, polishing, cleaning, and you get to drive tenders and do water sports with guests and everything. And then the engineering side is, you generally need to be a formally trained engineer and you need marine qualifications. But how to get these, you've got to start somewhere. So what I did all those years ago was this 0 to hero, basically, and I got my yacht master. Now, the yacht master used to be sort of like, wow, you've got a yacht master. Now it's an entry-level qualification for working on deck. I think what I would say to someone is look at your strengths and think about those departments, because we'll often get a young person come on board and say, I want to work on the interior, and then they're working in the interior and decide actually it's much more fun out on deck. I'd rather be out there and then try and transition across. Sex doesn't matter, male, female, you can both work in each department. That's not a problem. But I would say find your strengths. And if you think of a complete career change, say you've been in, you've studied banking or something like that, and you want to come across, just really consider what it is you want to get out of the job. The hours we work sometimes are excessive, even though we are regulated in the legal amount of hours we work. There are times when you have to do a bit more, and then we compensate for it at a later date. There's time that if you're on a yacht, there's a charter yacht, you might be very busy and you'll be working long hours, and hopefully you get a nice tip at the end. Or you could be on a private yacht, which is very busy, you get paid well, but maybe no tips. Or you could be on a private yacht that's not super busy, so you have more downtime. So again, look at what you want to do. Do you want to be running around like crazy, no sleep, lots of fun, or do you want a more steady pace of life? I think you just got to weigh that up. And the third thing I would really say is, if you're going to this industry, you need to have an STCW and a medical certificate. It's going to cost you at least £1,000. Before you spend that £1,000, really think about what you're doing, because that's not refundable. And to a lot of people, £1,000 is a lot of money. So, however, once you do find a job, and the competition is getting a lot more now, look at it and make sure you're doing this for the right reason.
Very valuable advice. You mentioned gender earlier. What is it like at the top when you reach the point that you've got to as a captain? Is it predominantly still quite a male-heavy industry, or is there more female captains? Perhaps that's my kind of stereotypical thought. I think of a captain of a boat and I assume the more of the male gender, but what is the reality now in the industry?
It's still very male dominated. There are more and more female captains. The deck route has been far more male oriented over the years. I'm seeing more and more females on deck, which is great, but still not seeing them coming up to the ranks. Sure. It would be good to see more females on the bridge. It really would.
So you must have seen a lot, Phil. I mean, working with high net worth individuals, as I well know, there is often quite an incredible world that you find yourself within, with demands or expectations or requirements that these people may have. Can you cast your mind back to perhaps something you could share with us about maybe anything more unusual? I'm assuming that now you're probably slightly desensitized to the unusual requests, but can you think of any funny stories that you could share with us?
Generally with NDAs you can't, but I'm just trying to think of anything. I've worked for people where I've had to do some different things, like a bit outside my normal job, renting apartments and houses, and everything's quite normal. But when you have to do it for the owner's girlfriend and whatnot, make sure the wife doesn't know about it. And then I had to furnish a apartment in Monaco all the way down to like napkin rings without the owner's wife knowing about it. Sort of, that sort of stuff is quite common. So that's a little bit out of my job title. Like as you say, you become a bit desensitized to it, because it's just the things people want, the things you do. It's just it's eventually normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I went to the Monaco Yacht Show one year, and seeing these. I'm not in the industry as such. I don't spend a lot of time on super yachts, unfortunately, and seeing these incredible floating kind of worlds. And then on the back, they had, the Ferrari and the Lamborghini and the motorbikes all parked. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. You don't even have to like step off the boat. You can just drive your vehicle off the boat and off you go. And it's just, until you see things like that, the mind boggles. And yet for us mere mortals, we don't have the Ferrari parked on the back of the super yacht to drive it off.
I keep my Ferrari in the garage. So, yeah.
I mean, like, exactly. Like,
I'm sure you do the same. Yeah.
The mere mortals, we have garages for our cars. So when you're not at sea, and obviously you've talked about spending time with your family, which obviously is a major part of your career path and impetus for working. What do you enjoy doing for fun? Are you at sea and taking the family out on boats, or what do you do for downtime normally?
No, actually, the kids aren't really into sailing or anything. Unfortunately, I'd like them to be, but I think my youngest is doing a sailing course this summer, so that may change. But no, personally, I'm quite into my engineering and DIY and motorbikes. So I do spend a lot of time customizing my bikes and tweaking and riding them on occasion. So yeah, it's stuff like that. I also like to do when I'm away and I've had the opportunity. I bring my motorbikes down and then I do things with them, or just buy another one and cut it up and mess around with it. So much to my wife's chagrin. So,
And what do you
anyway.
think continues your curiosity when it comes to your line of work? Because you, like we've just said, you become desensitized to these weird and wacky requests, and yet the industry is evolving, but then there is the same continuity, like you mentioned, with the navigation systems. There's not going to be dramatic shifts there. So what is it that makes you curious still about the work that you do and want to continue doing it, apart from the obvious, looking after your family, etc.?
What interests me in the industry is the people that are at the top of it. We're talking the wealthiest people in the world. They want to buy something, it just happens. And it is so interesting. Like the yacht I'm working on now, it's the biggest and the fastest and the best that money can buy for its genre of yacht, the style of yacht it is. And that's absolutely amazing. But there's people like, Bezos, he just built the world's largest sailing yacht because he can, and things like that. It's just this industry. It's so, the money that's involved is crazy, absolutely crazy. And that is quite exciting to be part of this, and to know that things can happen. There's an awful lot of equality in the world, of course, and certainly more have-nots than haves. But when you're in this, and I would say it's the 0.1% of the wealth of the world, not the 1%. It's quite exciting.
No, absolutely. And with that, though, must come a great deal of pressure, as we spoke about earlier, and responsibility. And that opens us sometimes to some vulnerability, some feeling uncomfortable, perhaps being asked to do things that are perhaps a bit shocking, or how do you deal with pressure and feeling uncomfortable? Is it just you've just got used to it over the years, or how have you learned to deal with being in uncomfortable situations?
Always try and find a solution what you're being asked to do. For example, we had an owner that ate shark fin soup, and I'm not comfortable with that, but he's paying my wages, he feeds my family. Sure, it's easy to say, oh, just go and get another job, but it's not that easy to just go and get another job. And so that particular situation I wasn't comfortable with, and also had a crew member who was even more uncomfortable, and she resigned over it. The owner's like, well, why have they resigned? And I'm an honest person, I'll tell them. And it's like conflict resolution. So yeah, I just try and find the solution there. Of course, in that one, the stewardess who wasn't happy, it didn't finish the way I'd wanted it to with her. And for myself, I just had to. Sometimes you just got to suck it up and deal with it. But it's not always a lot of fun.
And you mentioned as well the fact that you work for the 0.01%, or the billionaire families, and individuals around the world. But obviously, at the moment, we see quite a shift with the differences between wealth around the world. We obviously had COVID, which had then a knock-on effect. The UK, of course, had Brexit, and we see this quite a challenging market at the moment for mere mortals and people that don't have multiple billions in their bank accounts. On a personal level, how do you feel that your work has helped you deal with personal struggles or more challenging economic times? Because obviously your clients aren't affected by it, but we are. So have you found that that's helped you manage sort of difficulties over the years?
Yeah, I'm always careful with money. Even on the yacht, I spend the owner's money like it's my own. Don't waste money. My wife and I, we're not wasteful people. We don't have the latest, greatest cars. I'm currently driving an old wreck at the moment because we don't have the wealth sitting on the driveway not being used. So we manage our finances in a way to our income as well. there's times when I'm not working, and so we tighten the purse and everything, and the cost of living has affected us. Yeah, as a yacht captain, I do earn a nice salary, but the mortgage rates have gone up, so has our mortgage. School fees have gone up, which I know that doesn't affect a lot of people, but when you've got to pay them, you recognise it. Yeah, food prices, everything. So we just try not to live outside of our means, and just be sensible with money.
I really like what you said about that you spend the owner's money like it's yours, because I think there must be that, power corrupts and money corrupts in some senses of the word, and it must be so easy to have access to everything and have that responsibility to spend it, but then still choose to spend it wisely, and go to do your research and work with contractors and manage projects carefully, rather than just because you've got unlimited budget, spend it unwisely. And I think that's a very interesting perspective to be in, because it could be very easy to just be like, well, it doesn't matter. It's A, it's not my money, but B, there is no limit to the budget, so off we go. But you're giving.
Yeah, there are some yachts like that where they don't have a budget; it's just spend. Unfortunately, never worked on a yacht like that. So, but I also like the fact that we do have guidelines and parameters to work within. If you know where how far you can go, then you stop. Before you go too far.
If you looked back at your life, like knowing what you know now, is there any advice? What's the one advice you would give to your 18-year-old self? What do you think would be helpful to have heard at that point?
Invest in your pension. I would tell my 18-year-old son, myself. Yeah, yeah. Put money away for the future.
So Phil, I have a few more questions for you, but before I go on to my last questions, I'm going to surprise you with a quick fire question round. So you're going to get 2 words, and I would like you to pick the word that you feel most drawn to. You don't need to give me an explanation. You don't need to tell me why, and you can only pick one. But I'd like you to pick one of the 2 words. Are you clear?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Perfect. So, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Morning or night?
Night.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Netflix or party?
Netflix.
Pizza or burger?
Pizza.
Rain or sun?
Sun.
Fast or slow?
Fast.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Eggs or bacon?
Bacon.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Texting or calling?
Calling.
Today or tomorrow?
Today.
Thank you. You've spoken a lot about your career. You've spoken about, your path into it, and guidance on people who'd really be interested in entering this. So what do you believe it takes to succeed in life?
Hard work, determination. Don't say no for an answer. And you only get where you go in life by getting there yourself. Don't wait for someone else to hand it out to you, or expect it to be delivered onto you on a plane.
Good advice. Thank you. Well, Phil, I mean, it's been such a delight to speak with you today. It's been so interesting to hear about your career, where you started and now where you are. The boat's getting bigger and the adventures also getting bigger. If people listening to this would like to have more information, or indeed want to find Phil, then come to us at Polo and Tweed. We can help point you in the right direction to connect with Phil. Perhaps you've just bought a super yacht and you need his help. Come over to us at Polo and Tweed, and we'll point you in Phil's direction. And Phil, thank you for sharing all of this today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise, thank you for your time. It's been great.